Everyone's so over high school, but what if this is as good as it gets?
Brandon attempts to let loose by pulling a senior prank, and a verdict is made in Ximena's case. Let's break down Season 5, Episode 13 of The Fosters right here on What Happened. How's it going, Fosters fam? It is Tuesday, which means it's time for another recap and to check in on the Addams Foster family. This week's episode focuses on the love lives of our characters, and we make some progress with Ximena's storyline. The end results are, Emma decides to try out for roller derby to mainly keep an eye out on Jesus and Poppy, even though she says she just wants to try it since her boyfriend and best friend are obsessed with it. We all know what she's up to, right? Lena is officially the new principal, but the kids decide to pull a senior prank on her first day. At first she's pissed about it, but then she handles it like a boss. Mariana makes a decision about her dating life, and that is to let go of Matt. And yes, it is a really sad moment, but it's actually what needed to be happen, and I'm actually really proud of Mariana for this scene. It's actually the first time I've seen her be pretty mature in a long time. Steph is still worried about Tess and Dean and confronts Tess about everything, but the way she's handling it seems to be scaring Tess from really opening up, which seems like is what she needs to do to have a friend to talk through all of this with. Grace tells Brandon he should make his senior year unforgettable and convinces him to organize the senior prank, which yes, shocks everyone. Callie works her magic to get Ximena free in this episode by doing something that I don't think many of us do: read the actual contract you're given for something. Ximena ends up being granted a stay of deportation, meaning she can finally leave the church and she won't be targeted while they wait on her DACA status. The storyline isn't over though, because it seems like we have a vindictive ICE agent on our hands who is after Callie. As far as Jude, I guess there was just too much going on in this episode to include him as well, so he's MIA with the flu. But let's break down this episode in a little more detail. So we begin this episode in one of my favorite ways, with the family together in the kitchen, although we are missing Jude, who has the flu. I guess all that gaming's worn him out. Douchebag is officially gone, at least I hope they don't bring him back, and Lena is now the principal, but she has her hands full because she doesn't have a VP and she isn't planning on hiring a new one until the new school year. Plus, she still plans on being Jesus' paraprofessional, which he is not happy about, and neither are some of the teachers, who are still kind of acting awkward when she enters their classes. Mariana reminds Callie and Brandon they have to get in their senior quotes and pictures soon if they want to be included in the yearbook, and they're both kind of reluctant on this. But we get to see Steph and Lena share their senior quotes, and I love how different they are from each other.
When you learn, teach. When you get, give. Maya Angelou.
If you expect nothing from anybody, you will never be disappointed. Sylvia Plath. Cheers.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about Brandon and Grace. They're going through his senior pictures, and it looks like Brandon's taking pictures for like a used car salesman ad instead of his senior yearbook. Grace tells him he needs to make them funny or memorable, and then Grace's mom starts telling stories about her senior year and her senior prank, and Brandon realizes he doesn't think there's ever been a senior prank at Anchor Beach, which turns on a light bulb for Grace and her mom, and they convince Brandon to organize a senior prank. He enlists Callie, Mariana, and Matt to help, and unfortunately for Mariana, Callie puts in a call to Wyatt, who ended up putting in a call to more people to get them to all come to the school and help, which puts Mariana in the place of both of these guys she's dating. Also coming out of the woodwork to help is Brandon's ex Talia, who we haven't seen in a while, and her friend kind of makes a Mean Girl reference to Grace in this episode.
Does she even go here?
So what is their senior prank? It's to put the beach in Anchor Beach, literally, like build a beach inside of the school. So they start shoveling sand, they set up fake palm trees, put up a volleyball net, and everything. Grace is having fun, but Brandon's still being his pretty uptight, stiff self, trying to make sure everyone keeps sand on the tarps. Really, Brandon, you're like a smart dude. Do you really think you could control sand and lots of it? Like, sand's pretty much like the glitter of the earth, and it's very hard to get rid of. When Talia gets a little too handsy with Brandon rubbing his shoulders, Grace grills Brandon on just who she is and discovers that Talia was, well, his first. She can't seem to let it go and tells Callie about how awkward it is to be in the same room as someone who slept with her boyfriend. And, well, little does Grace know, right? Callie's face kind of says it all.
So awkward being in the same room with someone that slept with your boyfriend. Mind if I hang with you? No.
The only word to describe that whole interaction is awkward. I mean, that's definitely a family secret that Callie should probably keep from Grace. Well, it looks like Grace and Brandon didn't fully think out their plan because they left all the lights on in the school and the security noticed and contacted Lena, who shows up to bust them, and I find it kind of hilarious that Mariana just bolted, leaving Brandon and Callie standing in front of Lena, and then she later asks Callie if she thinks Lena saw her. I mean, I'm actually not surprised Mariana would run, but hopefully she wouldn't actually ditch her family in a more serious situation. But it did make for a pretty funny moment. Brandon then drives Grace home and they finally have a discussion they've been needing to have. She wants him to stop treating her like a Make-A-Wish kid and doing everything for her, and he needs to take care a little bit of himself as well. Meanwhile, he wants her to stop feeling guilty whenever he does something for her because he wants to. They make a pact they're going to try to be better about all these things, and then Grace reveals she has to prepare for her treatment, which means she won't be able to see Brandon for a little while, and she's kind of worried about how it's all going to play out. He sweetly brings her a present the next day that includes a beach in a jar so she doesn't forget this prank, and his senior picture and quote, which he didn't even want to participate in at the beginning of the episode. I love the picture and I love the quote that he chose, and it's so nice to see Brandon loosen up a little, right? Because he honestly sometimes acts like he's got to stick up his butt, right? Yeah, I hope that this kind of loosened up Brandon kind of sticks around a little. He definitely like needs to live a little. Now Lena, she was pissed about the school prank, but Steph told her that if she wants to respect the students, maybe she should show them that she has a little sense of humor to win them over. So she goes walking into school the next day like a boss.
By the way, this better all be cleaned up by the end of the day. If I find one grain of sand, I'm going to make a beach in all of it.
I love Lena. After that, and after what she had to do for Steph in this episode, I feel like Steph loves her a little bit more too, or she should. Steph is supposed to go see her therapist in this episode to discuss what's going on with what seems like her anxiety and forgetting to breathe, but she ends up catching Jude's illness, so she can't go. Dean then comes over to borrow some tools and reminds her of the dinner she's supposed to have with Tess and Jenna. Dean asks Steph if she could maybe talk to Tess and fill him in because he knows something's going on with her, but she won't talk to him. Steph really doesn't want to go to the dinner and gets an out since she's sick, so she sends a reluctant Lena in her place, and it's pretty much a really awkward dinner as the trio discuss marriage, relationship problems, being honest with yourself, all kinds of things like that just make it weird, and Jenna blatantly flirts with Tess, but I feel like Tess is kind of oblivious to the whole flirting thing. Eventually, Lena gets called to the school because of the prank, so we don't really see what happens with the rest of the dinner after Lena left. The next day, Tess comes over to check in on Steph, and she starts to say that she knows they never talked about what happened at prom. But before Tess can really address that situation, Steph cuts her off, kind of scolding her for flirting with Jenna in front of Dean and Lena, and then she tells Tess that Dean is worrying about her and she doesn't know what to say and it's not her business to say anything, so Tess just really needs to be honest with herself and Dean. Now Tess seems kind of upset and just tells Steph she hopes she feels better and leaves. Now I get where Steph is coming from, I get why she's stressed, why she's angry with Tess, but it seems ultimately like Tess just is really trying to figure out who she is, and she's struggling with her feelings and her sexuality, so she's kind of seeking someone to lean on and talk it out with, and I think she thought that Steph would be that person. But Steph is really shutting Tess down before Tess can get any chance to speak, which might just be causing Tess to repress her true feelings even more. Whether Tess is gay, straight, bi, whatever she wants to identify as, I hope she does find someone she can discuss it with and that she is able to figure out her feelings, and that hopefully Steph will be able to kind of lighten up and be there as a friend for Tess. Moving on to Jesus, Emma, and the love triangle she thinks exists with Poppy. Jesus is still struggling with adjusting to being back in school and having Lena sit with him in classes. He's trying to figure out what he's good at, where his place is in this world, and he ends up going to derby practice with Mariana. And he's working on his homework, and where you think he'd be distracted by the derby, he's actually not, and he's picking up on little things that even Mariana doesn't see happening in the game. He ends up getting a call for Emma, and she's upset that he's at the derby doing his homework instead of at home, and she just feels like he doesn't have time for her anymore, like she doesn't get to see him often enough. Well, we all know that the real reason she's upset is probably because he's somewhere where Poppy is. Jesus wants to see Emma, so they make plans to go to the movies that night. Mariana also notices that Jesus has picked up on the rules of roller derby really fast, which is, surprising because it took her a while to figure it all out. Mariana is so impressed that she tells Jesus that he should be the stats manager for the team. Well, as expected, Jesus and Emma's date night gets interrupted because of Poppy. Poppy was supposed to go see her parents that day, but she came home upset because she found that they were moved to another facility in Arizona. Jesus is honestly, I think, just trying to be a good friend, and he comforts her, and he tells her that he and Emma were actually planning on staying in to watch a movie, so she should join them, which of course comes as a surprise to Emma, who's not too pleased about this, but she goes along with it, and she manages to stay awake for most of Whip It while Jesus and Poppy discuss the roller derby. She does eventually fall asleep, and Poppy knows that there's some kind of tension, so she tells Jesus that she doesn't think Emma likes her. She then genuinely tells Jesus thank you for being there for her, and she hopes Emma isn't mad. Jesus then wakes up Emma, and he can tell that she's upset. She says that she feels like a third wheel and that he has time to be the stats manager but no time for her. Jesus explains that he's finally found something that he feels like he's good at because he's lost wrestling, he's no longer that great at school, and he needs something other than Emma in his life to make him happy. She eventually tells him she wants him to be happy and to be the manager, and he just sweetly says this.
Girl, you are my only wheel. I'm talking both axles. My drive shaft. I mean, you are the windows that go up and down automatically.
Okay, Foster, I get it.
Like, there is no denying that Jesus is in love with Emma. Like, I don't know why she doesn't see it and why she keeps worrying about Poppy. He's honestly just a good friend to her, and I think that I don't even think that Poppy sees him romantically anymore, just as someone who's a friend who's there for her in a rough time when she doesn't have her sister and everyone else seems really busy. Emma, of course, is being jealous, and I can see why she would, but I feel like she should also have some trust in Jesus. Like, he's made it very clear how much he is in love with her. Now, after that scene, you'd think everything would be cool and Emma wouldn't be jealous anymore, right? Well, we're wrong here, because Emma ends up showing up to roller derby practice, saying that since her boyfriend and best friend are obsessed with the sport, she might as well give it a try. Now, yes, I feel like there was some kind of a look from Poppy, but I don't think it was a look of, oh, why is Emma here to ruin my chances with Jesus? I think it was just like, why is Emma here? Like, why does she have to keep butting in? Why doesn't she trust everybody? But that could just be me, who knows. As far as Mariana's love life, she finally makes a decision. She decides that she thinks she's going to pick Matt after talking with Callie, but then she talks to Wyatt in the hallway during the prank, and she's actually very intrigued and impressed with what he says, and I have to admit, I was too. He's very surprising. She then overhears Matt talking to Brandon about how he's nervous about going to Berkeley and moving on, and what if the high school years were the best years of their lives. Mariana ends up talking to Matt the next day and explains that she was going to call things off with Wyatt, but she realized she needed to call them off with someone else, and that someone else is Matt. She knows that he's nervous about college, and she just feels like he's holding himself back because he's holding on to the familiar. He's super talented, and he needs to be excited about his future because she knows he's going to do amazing things, and it's actually a really heartbreaking scene. But it was actually nice to see Mariana making a good and mature decision for once. The last thing to talk about in this episode is Ximena. Her lawyer has located her parents, but we find out later that they moved on to another location. The lawyer is also able to get Ximena a hearing thanks to the publicity she got from the Shiloh McCullen event that Callie brought about. She, however, cannot attend the hearing because ICE could still take her away, so he needs video of Ximena from the original protest at the college to show that Ximena made no threats against the government. Without that tape, her chances of getting out of the church and everything are very, very slim. Well, unfortunately, it seems like the only person who filmed the protest was someone from the Conservative Student Union, the ones who actually put on the Shiloh McCullen event. Yeah, no one said it was going to be easy to get that tape, right? Well, the douchebag at the student union refuses to give Callie and Sean the footage, so they check out a camera from the school so Callie can at least film a statement from Ximena for the judge. When Callie is looking over the footage she films of Ximena on the camera, she notices that the camera looks very familiar to the one that she saw the student using at the protest. She sees the barcode on the bottom of the camera and pulls up the rules that she got that go along with the camera, which state that the camera and anything filmed on it are property of the college. We always knew there was going to be a loophole, right? Turns out the student union filmed on a school camera, so Callie and Sean are able to get the footage, and the judge rules in Ximena's favor, granting her a stay of deportation until Ximena's DACA status is decided, meaning that Ximena can finally leave that church and go back to normal. But the end of the episode shows that things aren't going to be so normal. Even though Ximena's back to, being at roller derby, she's going to stay with Steph and Lena, which means that's a very crowded house now, and she's planning on being Poppy's guardian. Someone isn't too happy about the results of this case, and that is one of the ICE agents that was on this Ximena case. It seems like he might be out for revenge, and we see him following Callie from the roller derby rink. Why can't everyone just leave Callie alone? She's done good. She stayed kind of out of trouble. Leave her alone, right? Trouble just seems to find this poor girl. So what is this dude planning? Alright, so I think that covers the majority of the episode. I enjoyed this one actually, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen next week. So let's take a look at the teaser.
Hello?
Hey, it's me.
Oh my god, where are you?
I'm in a holding cell downtown.
Are you okay?
I gotta get out of here before I get processed. They're gonna strip search me.
Have you heard from anyone at the JJC?
No, they said it might be a while before anyone gets in to see me. I won't be safe in Central Jail if people find out.
So, what did you think about this week's episode? Do you think Poppy has eyes for Jesus, or is it all kind of in Emma's head? Should Steph have listened to what Tess had to say instead of lashing out at her? And what do you think this ICE agent plans to do with Callie? Leave all your thoughts and theories down in the comments below. Let me know what you think, and then click right over here to take a trip down memory lane with some of the pop culture things that are turning a whopping 10 years old this year. I'm Lisa. Thanks so much for hanging out and watching with me. I'll see you soon.